This year I decided to cast on a new project to celebrate my birthday. So on February 1st, I cast on the Daily Pullover by Paula Pereira. It's a simple V-neck raglan pullover that's knit top down seamlessly. This pattern is designed in pearl Soho linen quill, but I'm using the oldest sweater quantity in my stash, which is Hudson and Weld in the color Mallard. I got this yarn back in October of 2022 from Indie Untangled. At the time, this was a Rhinebeck Weekend exclusive colorway, but it's now a regular colorway on their website. It's 100% non-superwash wool that comes in 50 gram skeins, and I have 9 skeins, which totals to 1,800 yards to complete this project. Now, my original plan was to make the 4th size, which would give me about 6 inches of positive ease, but I'll talk about later in this video how I had to pivot and make some decisions on the fly. So I got up bright and early on a Saturday morning to get started and cast on. Now, since I knit a sweater in this yarn a while back, I was pretty confident in my gauge, so I skipped swatching for this project. And besides, I was really eager to get started, so I jumped right into knitting without swatching. And I think one of the major benefits of top-down raglans is the inherent ability to modify as you go. So even if my gauge is wrong, I can easily address most fit issues without starting over. So that's pretty much why I felt confident enough to start this project without doing a proper gauge swatch. So by day 5 of knitting on this project, I reached a point at which the pattern instructed to split for sleeves, but the yoke seemed really shallow, so I laid the yoke on top of my VZ sweater, which has a very similar construction and fit, and I decided to add what turned out to be 5 additional raglan increases, which put my stitch count a few stitches shy of the next larger size by the time I did split for sleeves. In the pattern, the neck increases extend past the sleeve split, and I didn't want to interrupt the V-neck shaping, so I wrote out row by row notes to determine where my new sleeve split would correspond to the neck increases. It took me about 30 minutes to math it all out, but I got it right in the end. Toward the end of raglan increases, it was taking me almost 10 minutes to finish one round, so by this point I was really tired of having so many stitches on the needles. Luckily, by the time the first week was done, I had split for sleeves, finished the neck increases, joined the body in the round, and I was even able to start on the neck ribbing, which I usually like to do before finishing the body. So for the neck ribbing, the pattern instructs to pick up 59 stitches along each side of the V-neck, which is 76 rows deep. But since that works out to be 7 out of 9 rows, I picked up 4 out of 5 rows and 3 out of 4 rows, and then repeated that sequence along the entire V-neck, which gave me the perfect stitch count. I really wish designers would provide stitch pickup ratios instead of just specific stitch counts, but I can do all things with the power of mathematics. In week 2, I was on pace to finish the body. In my experience, the most reliable way to measure a sweater length is from the highest point of the shoulder to the hem. That is the length that determines where the hem will land on the body, regardless of the armhole or yoke depth. This pattern instructs to knit to a certain length from the armpit. Other patterns instruct to knit from a certain length from the top of the center back, for example. And since it varies by pattern, I instead measure from the shoulder so I can get consistent results and I can knit a length that works for me. I did take this measurement for some of my other completed sweaters just to see the range of sweaters that I've already knit. In general, my sweet spot tends to be anywhere from 20 to 23 inches from shoulder to hem. So for this project, I knit the stockinette to 19 inches and added 2 inches of ribbing called for in the pattern to end up with a total length of 21 inches. Now this is a few inches longer than the pattern schematics, which is fine because I'm not interested in a super cropped fit. I should also add that I omitted the short rows before knitting the body ribbing. That second section of short rows only really makes sense if you're going for more of a cropped fit. Now week 3 was the week of my actual birthday. So after finishing the body, I jumped straight into knitting the sleeves. I almost always ignore the pattern when it comes to tapered sleeve decreases because they usually instruct to begin decreasing within the first few rounds, and the sleeve ends up being far too tight for me as I have larger upper arms relative to my bust size. So instead I usually knit straight for a few inches before decreasing and then evenly spread the decreases along my forearm so that I end up with a desired stitch count by the time I reach the cuff. And that's pretty much exactly what I did for this project. After knitting the third decrease on the second sleeve, I noticed that I accidentally started the decreases 10 rounds too early, so I just stuck in 10 non-decrease rounds and kept it pushing instead of frogging. I don't think this made a huge difference in the final fit of the sweater. I officially finished knitting this sweater on February 21st, the day after my birthday, which means this project took me exactly 3 weeks to knit. So I cast on February 1st and I finished on February 21st.